those who are certified, we had a wonderful certified call yesterday with Catherine, delving into emotions. And today she's sharing more about her new book, which is so well done. And so I highly recommend it. It's just, anyway, I know this is what you'll be talking about. And I also wanted to acknowledge this other book, the Embodied Healing Workbook. I'm not sure if you're bringing that up, Catherine, but I wanted to share, and I actually, maybe I can put the link in there, but we did a book club on this back in September 2023. So
That's a
it's
lot.
in the community call recordings if you ever want to go back and check out another time we got to um, connect with Catherine for our book club. So thank you, Catherine, for doing this and joining us and sharing. I'll just go ahead and turn it over to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really love this work, and so I'm really excited to be here and share everything with you. And I've heard from a lot of people they're excited. This is one of the first book club books they were able to finish in time for the for the book club. So let me share. So I have a PowerPoint to kind of go through a bit of the kind of children and anxiety and why the worry monster. And where it really fits in to Arch is the notion that the worry monster is a story. It's a narrative, and it's a narrative. And well, I won't talk before I talk, but it's a story that teaches us about our emotions. And I'm hoping this whole presentation will be informing for you to apply. And that can be part of what we discuss. So can you see it okay? This, the sharing, okay, great. So there's worry. And then this slide is just one about myself. I'm a professor at the University of Buffalo, and I study embodied self-regulation. So that includes a lot of research on yoga, as well as trauma, eating disorders, substance abuse, and how all of that kind of mixes with the embodied experience and how do we heal? How do we heal from this being in our bodies in the present moment experience, which has drawn me exactly both in my private life and then now my research interests are connected to equine facilitated healing. And so up there, here's a picture of me with George, who I was just riding last night, who is an off the track thoroughbred that I am doing dressage learning with. And this is who you might hear from today. This is Finnegan and Poppy. And Hobbs will have nothing to do with us during the entire session. Here are my daughters, and my husband likes to be acknowledged as the person who makes everything possible. So, so anxiety, one of the most frequent diagnosed disorders in youth. Prevalence rates for lifetime are 15 to 20%, so that's 1 in 5. And I would assert that right now, if we were to be able to take cross-sectional numbers with everything that's happening geopolitically, that the numbers are just much higher. Now, when we talk about am I having anxiety or am I diagnosed with a clinical disorder, that's a bit different, but there are, I would say, most people I speak to right now are having pretty high levels of anxiety. And so worry comes in and he says in the beginning of the book, hi, I'm a worry monster. And that means I worry a lot. And he's here to normalize that experience. So what is anxiety? What's fear? And so anxiety is really the focus is future, threat, uncertainty, where fear is like a present moment danger. The trigger for fear is specific and identifiable. If there's a dog coming at you, dysregulated, we're afraid. Where anxiety can sometimes be vague or unknown, or we can kind of displace it on. My daughter currently just flew to Colorado, and she spent we have a lot, I come by this interest, honestly, we all have a lot of anxiety in my family. And so my daughter is, she's 25 years old, and we've been working this past week with her fear of having altitude sickness from flying to Colorado. I'm like, I think you're going to be fine. So we went over deep breathing techniques, but it's this vague unknown. And I'm like, what would have in the past, have you had worries about, high altitude? And she's like, no, it's just my trip right now. Right. And then the duration for anxiety can be prolonged and go beyond any specific event. And then the function for worry is anticipation, preoccupation. And the bodily response can be almost indistinguishable because we can go right into fight, flight, or freeze, even if it's just anxiety and the threat is not here. So also it's super normal and there are common fears by age. And if you've raised children or worked with kids, this will be very familiar. So I won't kind of read through the whole table and I will send this PowerPoint so that Lynn can share it out. But they're just predictable things. The reason I picked worry to be a worry monster is because monsters are one of the big kind of global things that kids can be afraid of. And I wanted this book to be an opportunity to have a relationship with worries rather than feeling like I have to fix them or make them go away. So we don't want to make worry go away. We like this cute little guy. So the brain and anxiety, we are very active when we're anxious here in the brain stem and the survival brain, and also in the limbic system, this emotional brain. And when we're very anxious, the logical part of our brain here, especially the cortex, but especially the prefrontal cortex, isn't as activated. And the focus is on this reaction and emotionality that happens in the lower, deeper levels of the brain. And that's why somebody who's a doctoral student getting their PhD can seem irrational when they're going to Colorado with their boyfriend's family for a wedding because her cortex isn't activated. And that's what moms are here to help her do. And so we can look at, this is just a kind of a graphic on the brain and anxiety. So the brain stem survival keeps us alive, right? And this to explain to a kid, it can be really helpful to use you can see these are experiential, like running your heart, breathing, helping you react fast, right? And then what does it have to do with anxiety? It can make you freeze, run, or fight when you're scared, right? Get you going. Limbic system, your feeling brain, helps you feel emotions like fear and anger and joy, right? And it's always looking out for danger, wants to keep us safe. It's one of its favorite things to do. And it'll send out an alarm when it thinks something's wrong. And then your thinking brain helps you think things through, like make good choices, even if you're afraid. And it can tell the feeling brain it's okay, we're safe now, right? Or remind us to ground our feet and do some deep breathing. And here's worry here. And then this just another diagram of how to look at it. So you have your prefrontal cortex and the key parts that are the anterior cingulate cortex amplifies fear signals too from the amygdala. So that can be a big piece. So you can see how closely they are in the brain and how by activating our prefrontal cortex, we can help to calm the other parts of the brain. We call it like this cortical limbic loops, and we want them to be deeply connected and work together instead of being really activated and one shuts down. So we want to have activation and then it brings in the whole brain in an integrated way. And that's with lots of practice, we can respond to anxiety that way. Okay, so how they work together in anxiety for kids. When something feels scary, your feeling brain hits the alarm. And your survival brain gets your body ready to run or hide. And then your thinking brain can help you figure out if you're really in danger or not, but only if it stays online. So when you're super anxious, your thinking brain can go offline and your survival brain takes over. And you can see by Worry Monster here, that's exactly what has happened. The artist is Lena Podesto, and she lives in Oregon. I have to think of the town. And I have never met her. She was chosen. I picked her out of a bunch of illustrators through Random House, and I picked her out because of her dragons. And she's a dragon specialist in illustration. And I didn't know she was going to put dragons into this book until I saw her first drafts. And so she gave Worry Monster a pet dragon, and I'm so excited. And you can see here in this picture. You'll also notice that she did something really interesting when she When Worry Monster is very anxious, there'll be more red lines through. And when he's calmer, he has a different color. So just noticing the ways that an illustrator creates this story without words. And these weren't guidances that I gave her. So your whole body, your physiological behavior, behavioral and psychological parts of self are affected. So psychologically, you feel apprehensive and uneasy, and it can cause you to feel detached when it's very extreme. If you have, and this can be very helpful because there are often people, I wouldn't say often, there are a group of people that are afraid of horses. Horses are big and they can feel unpredictable. So, really monitoring, kind of being with clients, noticing if they're feeling anxious, and this can be a very teachable moment to kind of ground and breathe, stopping at the gate before you enter the field and just taking a deep breath and scanning out the scene. How are we feeling? What's the heartbeat like? What's the breath like? Right? Really getting a sense of the body and the psychology. And are they having a really grounded, realistic kind of thinking as they head in, or are they having kind of unrealistic fears or exaggerated fears, or truly they're like afraid, right? So that we can work with that before we head in really close to the horses. Oh, and here you can see Worry. He gets his fear. What if I miss the bus? They're going on a field trip. What if I need my pet dragon? So we get all the what ifs, what ifs, what ifs. And then behaviorally, it can be inhibition. So we're freezing or not moving, or in fact, even moving away from, avoiding situations or things. If you have a client that's canceling or no showing, it can be about anxiety. Restlessness, tensing muscles, expressions of irritability. Somebody gets more irritable as you get kind of closer to the horses. Seeking safe places or situations, they're kind of always moving away. And again, this isn't wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just telling us anxiety is here. Anxiety is in this space with us. And then physiologically, now, fortunately, we aren't like Worry Monster, because when Worry Monster gets afraid, it is pretty scary. And his heart races, his claws burst out, his fangs pop, and then I'll show you in the next slide, but he goes full monster, and it's but we get shortness of breath, heart palpitations, trembling, shaking. All these things, especially as a kid, but even as a grown person, can feel very out of control because you aren't choosing it. You're not like, oh, I hope my hands get super sweaty, right? I hope I start shaking. So this isn't intentional and it's happening. So it can come with this really felt sense of a loss of control. And for Worry Monster, it's very dramatic. He goes full monster. And when I read this to kids, they're like, whoa, that is I mean, it's so scary. It is, look at him. And we love him. He's so cute. What's happening? So one thing we can do too, and just to kind of give you more of an overview of anxiety, and this isn't in the book, it's just part of kind of presenting the book, is just kind of assessing, how do we know if it's a problem or something we can work on? So do we notice a child worrying excessively a lot, right? Do you notice your child having shortness of breath or heart palpitations for no reason? Are they anxious when they have to interact? Like my daughter who has anxiety and who would be fine with me telling you that. She shares her story to help people have courage to face their anxiety. But I used to have to kind of sit next to her while she would call a friend to ask them to come over for a play date. And that kind of support that I gradually now, even in high school, I didn't have to do that. But in first, second grade, I was part of like her support team to call people and ask them over. She's afraid they'd say no, or what if they don't want to come, right? All those what ifs, what ifs. And it can even affect school performance. And they can have very specific fears of certain places, things that can interfere with functionality. So if I am afraid of spiders and there's a science classroom that has spiders or snakes or that, I might not want to go to school overall, but it's because I'm worried about those specific things, right? So is there a distinct fear that's getting in the way? Or are they reacting by freezing, clinging, or having a tantrum when they may approach a feared situation? And then separation anxiety, kids feel safer with their their parents, their caretakers. And this can include not even wanting to sleep in their own room. And all of these, all at that level, this would be when you'd want to get support, um, and why someone might even be coming to equine facilitated learning or therapy. So why work with anxiety? So we want anxiety is actually kind of good. There's like an optimal level. And it's funny, I'm working now with a 3-year-old, and when she first started coming to equine therapy, she was like not gonna have anything to do with horses. Like she was standing back. She's like, let's do some sweeping. Like, she would set up a course for the horse to walk, and then it would come time to walk. And she's like, Mom can do it. Right. So, like, kind of the distance. And now she's very, like, actually, she's very comfortable. So now I'm working to instill like safety, right? So I want you to be a little more afraid. We want an optimal level of fear. It helps us perform. It helps us kind of navigate situations and keep ourselves safe. And when there's too much, it can get in the way and shut us down. And that's the Yerkes-Dodson law, that's been around for a long time. And these are all reasons why we'd want to work with it. It can cause low self-concept, withdrawal, isolation, avoidance, and you can see how worry is affected by it. So it's not about making anxiety go away, but changing our relationship with it. And that's what this book is about. It's a story of having a relationship. So in this book, really, Worry Monster is a character, but the anxiety is a character in this story. So often we want to have our kids be anxiety free, or take an uncomfortable feeling and say, oh, we don't want that. How can I get rid of that in my life? And really what embodiment and mindfulness work does is says, oh, this is here. This is part of being a human, having anxiety, having sadness, having anger, these uncomfortable emotions, right? That are so important. Grief, they tell us so much. How do we learn to have relationships with them so they can help us? So here in the beginning of the book, Worry Monster, he is a good guy. He uses his worries to make sure everybody's safe when they're crossing the street, right? We want him to keep doing that. We want him to think, uh-oh, this is a busy street. Let's heads up, everybody, right? So it protects us from danger. And sometimes it overreacts, especially in sensitive kids, which Worry Monster is a sensitive guy. What I love about this book too is the teacher in the classroom is the one that teaches him these mindful monster moves that help him have a better relationship with his anxiety, right? So he can notice when he needs them, and he can choose one of his moves. And it's important because they're going on a field trip. So what does this look like? Anxiety is not the boss of me, right? It doesn't get to decide what we do. We don't fight it. Fighting makes it stronger. Curiosity and mindful monster moves help. And that's like the whole arch framework is based on, like, look at what's in front of me. Like, this is like, it's filled with wonder. It's wonderful. Curiosity, right? And this whole space in front of me, like, I'm curious about this. Right? So this curiosity really is this shift for anxiety. Instead of reaction, we get frontal lobe curiosity. And then bravery grows with practice. Every time your child or you face anxiety and sit with it and be with it and do your tools, you get stronger, you get more effective. So this externalizing is what we do in narrative therapy. It's what we do in the arch framework. It's what happens in this book. And externalizing can be extraordinarily helpful. So by externalizing anxiety, giving it a name, or imagining it as a worry monster, it helps us kind of see we are not our anxiety. Emotions, like anxiety, they fill up our bodies, and we can say, in fact, in English, I am angry, I am anxious, not I am feeling anxiety, right? It's just identity, like it gets filtered right in. So we aren't our feelings. Feelings come and go, and our bodies are still here. So if I was anxiety, if it wasn't here, I'd be gone, right? So there's a me, and there's an anxiety that runs through me. So this separates their identity from this, anxiety, right? They can take charge. So it's something outside of them, and I can learn how to negotiate it. And it makes it easier to talk about by externalizing. So Worry has a big field trip to the museum with his class, and he's worried about it. And these are the moves in the book. And so we're almost done. Time for a discussion. But so one of them is movement, so stretching. So many times I'll begin sessions with a meditation or a movement or breath exercise and close as well. Just to kind of put a little bit of a kind of parentheses or holding space or container on sessions. And they can be very simple stretches. And for little kids, when you move your arms, when you breathe, it makes taking a deep breath in and out less abstract. So it's like big belly breath in and out, just like Worry does right there. Or you can put hands on your belly and your chest to really feel the breathing. And then counting the breaths is very helpful too, because it makes it more concrete than just saying take a deep breath. It's kind of abstract. So we breathe out for this, breathe in for this many. And you can see Worry's really focused here. And look at see how Lena, as he calms, do you see the color changes? So a really powerful illustrative move on her part. So also they come and go. They are soft and quiet. They are loud. They're rude. They whisper. They yell. They can be a lot of work. And sometimes they do not bother us at all. So that's part of kind of what happens in the book. Like here, this might be my favorite picture in the book. And this is exactly what can happen in a worried brain. Look how soothed I am. Like I might be able to relax right here. I don't need to worry about the field trip. ... Wait, the field trip. Oh no, what if? And so I'm back in it again, right? I'm back in the rumination. So that normalizes that experience. What do I do? So the sensate focused is used by everyone from Navy SEALs to trauma informed people. So we put it in here, but it's really using your senses. I boiled it down just to 4. So, and Worry finds like, what are 4 things I can see? And Lena is amazing. Look at these, the pots and pans, the faucet, like all this stuff that you can hear. And then things we can touch, right? And then things we can smell. And that is the dragon's stinky feet. So very cute. And then another tool is riding the wave of the anxiety. So we sit and we ride the wave and just watch it rise and pass, and we don't add any more worries. And so Worry does that, and he asks, like, here's my big fear. What if they leave me there and I'm all alone? Like, what's your fear? The whole book asks the child as they're reading to kind of like, what's it like for you? Will you help me? And then movement and dance, right? And so this is what's so great about being in the literal therapeutic space when you're working with horses, is we can really kind of move and kind of shift. What we want to do in fear is we want to mobilize without the fear. So mobilize intentionally. So the child can do something little, like I choose to take 2 steps forward and stand here and breathe. And now I'm going to I think I'd like to take 2 steps back or over, but I get to kind of be with my body and then mobilize how I choose and not in reaction to the fear. So, and another thing that does tame all monsters, including worry monsters, is music. So this is here, the Worry Monsters song. And I don't know if anybody is a fan of Marcel the Shell. No? Oh, you'll have to Google. There's a cute little animation. It's Marcel the Shell, and it's a little snail with the cutest animation. And it's just fun to watch. And Marcel has a lot of anxiety. But in part of Marcel the Shell, Marcel's like, rock your body. So rock your body and sing this song. So Worry Monster, you're okay. You're getting braver every day. Rock your body and sing this song, calming worries all day long. And then at the end is gratitude. And it's like when we're being in gratitude, And I learned this from a special operations soldier. When you're lying in bed and you're thinking about something you're worried about, and then the next thing you're worried about, and the next thing you're worried about, and the next thing you're worried about, and your brain is just ruminating, keep that going. But instead of keep the ruminating going, but you have to put in, instead of what you're worried about, what you're thankful for, and you have to think of 100 things. 100 things. And I'm telling you, you'll get so tired by the 15th thing, you'll be asleep. So you're working with your brain. So gratitude and thinking of a list of things that you're grateful for can help really kind of capitalize on what the brain's doing, but turn it toward a more positive orientation where it's about connection instead of protection and fear. And so Worry loves dragonflies and his little cave to curl up in and friends like you. And then he asks, what are you grateful for? Um, and so another distinction that's really important in this book is that we go from that we want to read the book lots of times. So when we don't do things, sometimes it's because we have a knowledge deficit. Like we don't know what to do. I don't know when I'm scared. I don't know I could use my senses or take deep breaths or stretch. But what really happens, knowledge deficit is often the smallest part. And this is also why embodied practices like arch are so important because it's performance deficit that where it really lies. That means I know, but I'm not doing and I haven't practiced, right? So the practice, the performance deficit is where we can really make a difference. And so we're practicing these moves in real space, in real time. Does that make sense? The research on children with ADHD and anxiety, those two for sure, kids typically know when you ask them later what they could do, they could tell you, but they have trouble with the performance in the real time. Like, oh, I should wait and listen to my friend talk, right? I know I should do that, but in the real moment, I don't do it. So it is practicing the thing I know that I could do. Oh, and this is just bragging. The Child Mind Institute awarded it one of the best books of 2024, so that's very exciting. And these are resources from them, and you'll get this. And then I will put in chat. I have a yoga class that I created that you can do with the book, and then some resources from Random House that you can use. So let me put those in the chat. And then, perfect. So then we have time for questions, thoughts, how it feels like it's connects with your work or anything like that.
Uh, well, first of all, thank you, Catherine. That was so beautifully presented. I just had a question because I have not heard of Marcel the Shell, but I was just like looking it up. So, that's a movie or it's
It's
a
a little animation that she does with a little shell. It's like, and I think it's on YouTube, and there's not that many of them. Like she just did it for a little while and then stopped, but it was like a phenomenon like during the pandemic. But it's very
okay.
cute. And like, the ones where they move them just an inch and a tiny, tiny bit that makes like an animation and you take the repeated pictures, it's that. And then it has the cutest little voice. And Marcel gets really nervous and scared and handles as you can imagine, a little snail shell guy would feel in a big world. Oh, did you find it?
Well, I did. I just put that so people, if they want to check it out, that haven't heard of it, like
It will
me.
make you laugh. Yes. Yeah.
So thank you. I saw Carolina. You mentioned here. I feel sad versus I am sad.
Mm-hmm. Right, because then I am feeling like it's more of an experience than I am this identity, right? of and that's so the mindfulness is like this idea of start even for kids developing this sense of like themselves as witness. So a good noticer, oh, I'm noticing my body's doing this. I notice that I'm having this feeling. I'm noticing my feelings getting really big, right? I'm noticing I feel like I want to yell, you know, or a variety of things. I'm thinking of my own kids and the different things, the different choices they made when they were 3. And um, oh, thank you, Julia's. How much you can pack into a presentation, Catherine? And not well, the children. It's writing a children's book, and I was telling Lynn, I've wanted to write one. Well, I've written many, and since I was in my 20s. Um, so for decades. And I've been rejected from every single children's book company multiple times. And so this is just so exciting for me. Like I have academic books I've published, and I have to say this is my most exciting publication. Um, so I love it. And it took 4 years. So I think that we started talking about it in 2019 early before the pandemic. And then during the pandemic, like a lot of things went off, just that was all. But then they analyze every single word, like I can't even tell you. Like we got in long, there's a part, I got to think the exact words where he's like, he doesn't quite say makes me but it was this. And I'm like, no, like he has to have agency. And we went back and forth with the editor for 3 days and they won because they win. So, but I couldn't believe it. And I'm like advocating for a word. And so it's that level of editing that goes into every single book. Um,
Catherine, I love this. I love the visuals. I love the concept, and I love the simplicity of how to share it. I mean, it's so accessible for so many different ages. I mean, I think this can be very much accessible for adults, etc. I mean, it's just fun. It makes it more fun. I'm really curious about what do you think was different about this version or this book versus the others that were not selected? What do you think?
I
What's different?
it well I so I for about I don't know 6 or 7 years I was consulting with the UN Foundation. There's a program called Peace on Purpose that I developed with Kelly Boyce, who's a mindfulness expert.
Mhm.
So we worked for the UN Foundation creating this like program that's still there for UN workers to really teach them what's trauma, like how to use mindfulness to regulate even in high stress zones like the Gaza Strip. I went to the Middle East many times in this project. So part of what we did is create a platform for them. And there was meditations we did that they could access that are still there. And the platform was donated by an app called Simple Habit. So I had done meditations on Simple Habit for this project. And then they asked me to do one on sexual assault and sexual harassment for women, like a series. So I did those. And a publisher from Random House loved them and reached out to me. This is after I've been rejected for like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, he goes, would you be interested in writing a children's book? And I'm like, would I? I have 20. And all of my ideas, she didn't like any of them. But now I had a connection. So every time I thought of an idea, I would just email her. And
Hmm.
this, I was sitting with a client and she worry, worry, worry. And I'm like, your brain is like this worry monster, you know? Like I said, it's like it just feeds off the worries. And the more you have, the bigger the monster gets. And then I was like, that would be a good book. And it's really interesting because now there's like 3 other worry monster books. And the time when I pitched this, there were none. So I don't know if it was a pandemic brought out that idea. One of my meditations is about a worry monster that I did right away for my client that day. So I don't know, but they liked that idea, and then they're like, send it over, and then they sent a contract, and then you're just like drunk off like just, success,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I walked
Yes.
around feeling like my fingers tingled. I can't describe it to want something for that long.
Wow. So you kept pursuing and moving along your dream journey, and
Yep.
you
And trust
came
me,
around the back door.
yep. And
Yeah.
I still pitch stuff a couple times
Yeah.
and I get rejected. Yeah. Rejection is just part of it. It's a
Hmm.
bigger part of it than acceptance, the big journey.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
it kind of is how to this work is with clients and building your practice. Like it's such important work. And I think the bigger culture doesn't quite understand it all yet. And I think that's like showing up for the community, showing up for your clients. Like this
Mhm.
is really good work. And as we become more
Mhm.
digital and impersonal and disconnected, therapies that are in the midst of other living beings are going to become increasingly more important. Sitting in
Yes.
the office or on telehealth won't be enough. Um, so I think it is like that, just like the children's book, like staying in it, figuring it out, like how could it, like what are our mechanisms for change? Why does this matter? Even if the big world doesn't quite get it all yet.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing it.
Well, I want to thank you for cluing me in about fear of dying. We had a client, young teenage girl who had been bullied, and she had a fear of dying, which I never connected with anxiety.
Oh,
I
yeah.
always wondered about that aspect.
Well, and so it's really interesting because it's one thing that it seems like only humans can have, right? Like that other animals don't have a fear of dying. There are a few things that we kind of have that other animals they are so in the here and now. And there is some idea that they do know, like, as I've on the farm and I can, a horse is sick and watching their herd and how they handle it. I think they have a sense, but not quite, they don't have the cognitive awareness like we do. So when you get into your teenage years, you get all of a sudden you get it. And often around that time, you'll have a grandparent that passes or a family dog that passes. So you get to have like not only an awareness, like, oh my gosh, like humans have an endpoint, and then it happens in their lived experience. I've had many clients I work with eating disorders and trauma have their first real kind of clinical mental illness struggles in that exact moment that they realize, and then they lose a pet and a grandparent around that same time, and it's just enough um, to kind of exacerbate whatever the underlying thing was. So it's really common for kids to go, oh, wait, gosh. And it can be very overwhelming. And you have that thought at the same time that you get secondary sex characteristics and your body feels really out of control. And, like it comes at a really difficult time. And then you understand, oh, democracy, oh, war, oh, death, oh, divorce, oh, alcoholism. Like all of a sudden you start getting things that when you're little are just too much to hold. And when you're a teenager, it's a lot to hold. So the death is like can kind of symbolize like the unknown. Yeah. How did you so they that that's an exciting thing to think about, like how that could show up in the equine facilitated. And at the farm, I mean, we lose horses every year because of age and colic and you know, it's part of it too. But we have like 42 head of horse, so there's a lot. Yeah. We should have one more thought so we're not ending on fear of death. But it is something to be with, just like any other fear, right? And you can kind of watch it, like bring it up and you can watch it arise and pass, right? In mindfulness, we have like everything that kind of saying everything everyone we know will pass. Everyone we know and love will get sick at some point in age. Like, everything will always change, right? So our relationship with these things like aging and death and change, is really important because it's just part of life, right? So teaching someone how to have a relationship with anxiety is a little stepping stone to then have a relationship with these bigger things that can feel really overwhelming. So you start with small, accomplishable steps. Like I can work up the courage to get to a field trip. And then it's like, oh, eventually this body, this little body will become a older person that'll have that life experience of I've been afraid of things before and I learned how to work with that anxiety and how to relationship with it. And I can do that again.
I see
Yeah.
something in the text in the chat. Do you see that, Catherine?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love, so I specifically wrote this book too for like kind of getting kids to wind down at the end of the day. So being able to organize yourself. It does bring up fears, right? So it brings them up. And so that's like one of the like lead editors at Random House is like, well, some of those things are pretty scary in that book. And I'm like, well, that also is the point. Right. And as you read it over and over, that gets you that kind of exposure like therapy that I'm hearing these things that are pretty scary, but over and over, and I'm calming myself down, which makes me less reactive to them. So I would like if I was going to read it to a child first time, I'd probably do like earlier in the day when they can have a lot of kind of movement and activity after, and then slowly move it towards something that would eventually be more comforting at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Catherine, I also wanted to ask in terms of age, I mean, I see this as being sort of ageless, but was there a particular, and you may have said this, was there a particular age range that you were targeting with this?
I didn't, but they put it in the 3 to 8 year old.
Okay.
I think of children's like, has anybody read the book Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus? It's like one of my favorite.
No, but it sounds like one to
It's
ride.
amazing. Like I like love that book. And it's for kids, but it's hilarious. Like it's Mo Williams. And it starts
Okay.
out, and so I used some of it because Worry Monster kind of pokes his head and he goes, "Hey, I'm a worry monster," and the pigeon's like, "Hey, I'm a pigeon," right? So it starts out. There's the bus driver, and he's like, "Hey, how are you?" He's like, "I gotta go in do this thing." He's like, "Will you watch the bus?" And great. Oh, and one last thing. Do not let the pigeon drive the bus. And then the page turns and it's the pigeon's like, hey, can I ride the bus? Can I drive the bus? And then the whole book is like him trying to peer pressure you into letting him drive the bus. It's hilarious.
Uh,
To me, like I find that book funny as an adult, and kids love it. So I think the best books kind of speak to the parents
Bridge.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it's 3 to 8 year olds is what the
Okay.
market.
Great.
I don't
Great.
remember. So I have one more. So I just remember a moment when I was a teen when I saw my father come out of surgery for lymphatic cancer. He was very gray and immobile on the gurney, and I was shocked and scared. Being strong father, so weak and death-like. Super impactful for me. Oh, there's an early encounter with fear and death. And then as an adult in 2027, I got to take care of my mother in the last 6 weeks of her life. And it was powerful, life-giving, life-changing event. I'm not afraid of being with people who are dying now. In fact, I have a terminal cancer patient now. And one of my women's story groups, we are having amazing discussions as she works with her story. Yeah. And so too, like you had this therapeutic, kind of corrective therapeutic experience with your mom where you get to be in death in this really kind of powerful way. I was with my mom with when she passed, and she passed of something that was not cancer, but a lung disease that kind of took her out very slowly. And it like shifted my relationship with death and increased my desire to be in my mindfulness practice and meditation. Um, yeah, it's really powerful. Thank you for
Um,
sharing that.
since we're on the topic of death, sorry, I know you were going to get off of that, but
Uplifting topic. Yeah.
I saw since Lynn Moore came on, just as far as horses and involving horses in that. And Lynn, do you remember I got to spend some time at Acres for Life, and I can't remember which horse it was that passed away, and that young child from Haiti that
Mhm.
had a very traumatic
Yep.
I've probably seen a lot of death, a lot of murder, and
And
his response to that. Do you remember that? And
I do. It was Shadow, and that child had not been, he had spent a lot of time bringing food to his mother who was passing, and over weeks and months, and starving to death and not healthy. And she passed, he wasn't able to be with her when she passed. And Shadow, he had spent weeks and months, he didn't say much, but what he had done was spent time bringing Shadow food. Especially, he would spend time pulling different long grasses and lush and bringing it to Shadow, who is like through the fence, and he would feed that. He did this multiple session after session after session. And yeah, Shadow, all of a sudden, it was an emergency situation, needed to be put down that morning, the morning of this young person's session.
Oh
And
no.
we reached out to his caregiver, explaining what was happening. And we said we would be open. We thought therapeutically it might provide, just some connection, closure for him, or to be there. We didn't know the full story. And she said, yes, she would support that if he wanted to. Yeah, he was with us when we euthanized Shadow. And it was an amazing experience to see him process what he had been carrying, and be with Shadow, who represented his mom, we found out. So,
Yeah, that's, oh my gosh. So that this opportunity for this corrective therapeutic experience, that's not constructed, it's like real life. He got to embody it in a real life
mhm,
transition.
yeah.
That's a miracle that that even came together like that.
And I think being open to that, right? Open as facilitator, as people, as humans, as being to being, like when we can slow down enough, be attuned enough, aware enough of everything around us, can be it's all linked.
Mhm.
And how can we just be with that? We get that, sometimes we block that out, or it's not part of what we thought, or we get more, I call it tighter or harder around, more defined around what something looks like. And I think if we can be soft ears, soft eyes, soft hearts, um, we can just even do better in the world.
There's a process that I do sometimes when people are having trouble locating emotions in their bodies. So I just have like a big basket of crayons and piece of paper, and I'll say like, just draw like anything that like
Mhm.
that like show me the feelings, right? Just show me, and it's not on a body, just show. And as so, and I'll date them over time just so we know what date, and like, and I'll put the notes on the back, and then they can tell me like, oh, this means this and this means that. And what I've noticed a pattern, I would keep saying we got to do a study at the university about this. So as they are healing, there's fewer tight boxes and lines, and it
Mm,
gets spacious, just like and freer, and the
mm,
colors shift, and patient after patient. And when people are feeling really like hopeless and scared, it's like these boxes in the center of the page that are kind of holding everything together. I've seen it's an
Mm.
interesting thing. It's a one way to like I'm thinking of doing like that as we do that, like kind of um, bringing the story together at the end of a session. It might, when somebody's not able to find the words, just paper and crayons. And then
Yeah.
mhm,
when they draw it, you can talk about what they drew, right?
mm,
Like
mhm,
no requirement for artistry, just it could be just colors, right? And then
mhm,
tell me about those colors. And then they can kind of, now I have the words.
Mm.
But that's really fascinating, that way of kind of thinking, like it softens up. And I've seen
mm,
that.
mm. I haven't had the words, but I've felt the experience of that.
Good.
I'll just add that yes, I agree. I think this book is for all ages. I went through and did 1 through 7 mindful monster moves to practice them. um, And I really liked the monster hug with the tapping, and it was the tapping, and I just it was a good reminder. Actually, I found that so relaxing, and I just wanted to bring that up. Just such a simple. It was more than the hug; it was the tapping. So I thought that was neat that you or pat. You said pat each shoulder, but I thought that was really.
It actually comes from the somatic experiencing with Peter Levine and the
Yeah.
idea of a self hug and then the tapping. And you could even do more tapping just to sometimes you know how you lose a sense of yourself as a container. You can just kind of tap your whole body, like I'm right here. In a more therapeutic way, it can be just even putting kind of lotion on, but like here I am. But that, so everything had to get distilled so much. So that's what that is. Each thing comes from a different, it's a little bit EMDR too, because it's bilateral
Yeah.
stimulation. Yeah. But each thing comes from research that's in there. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
and I want to say it just got picked up by Scholastic. So
Mhm.
it'll be a Scholastic book this coming school year. So
That's
it'll be soft
amazing.
cover. Yeah. So I'm very excited.
Well, thank
Catherine,
you.
mhm.
Yes.
Catherine,
Yeah.
um, I want to thank you for this book. I really, really love this book.
Oh,
I
yeah.
heard about it before. I saw this email today, and I'm like, oh, it's late in the evening, but I want to come on this call.
Yeah.
And while you were presenting the book, my daughter is 6 years old. She just turned 6. She's not really worried, not at all. However, I'm getting this book, and I will also introduce this to the school. But what I really like about this is to to create this relationship with anxiety. We can also create relationship with all other feelings. Okay,
Hmm.
it can be anger and the joy, and it brings this relationship. This is what I really love about it.
Yes, trust me, I've pitched the angry monster, sad monster. So once the worry monster gets more sales, I'll be like maybe in on the other. The other one I've pitched that I really, really want is for him to learn how to fly a dragon. And the idea is that even though you might have like an anxiety disorder or any other mental illness, that you can still do really brave things. And like things that regular people without any specialness, like your, anxiety disorder, would be like, what? You do that? You fly dragons? And you'd be like, yes, I do. And I have anxiety. So
I
that's
love that.
that's the one I'm praying they'll give me a contract for. So we'll just everybody cross our fingers.
We'll hold that thought.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there'll be a page for heels down, eyes up.
Then you're muted.
Yeah, there she goes. Yeah.
I I was just saying this is so wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Catherine, for sharing your special skills and experience. And this is such a beautiful book. Thank you. Congratulations on fulfilling a dream and a passion.
Thank you.
That just adds to the beauty of this book. So, is there any other last thoughts that you'd like to say or anybody else before we wrap up?
No, but if you have trouble getting the book in your country, let me know because I'll reach out to Random House. So I'm really easy to find. It's like I'm the only one with that last name. So if you Google me, you can find my email and then I can help you get it there. If you have trouble getting it across the continent or
Are you okay to share? You can message Catherine on the Arch site because she's an Arch certified member, or do you want to share your email in the chat, Catherine?
yeah,
Is that okay?
it's easy.
I guess it was in your PowerPoint too, right?
Yeah. And I have two emails and don't worry, they both go the same place. But there, cpcook@buffalo.edu.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. It was so good spending this time with you. Oh, I forgot to mention our next community call. Take note that it's actually not the first Wednesday. It's going to be the second Wednesday because of the July 4th holiday and because we're gone with gathering and training and other activities. So the next community call will be the second Wednesday of July. So mark your calendars for that, and we'll be sharing gathering highlights during then. So for those of you who aren't able to come, hopefully you can enjoy some of what we experienced through the next call, which will be on July 9th. So, okay, great. Thank you guys so much. Thanks again, Catherine, and see you guys next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.